Cats are looking at me like, what is going on here? And I wouldn't blame them. This is a bit of a different location, all that, because this one is going to be a bit longer. Because this is the intro for right now. So yeah. This time we're looking at every Ernest film there is. But before we do that, maybe we should talk about the character. And before he, would, have his own films, he would do quite a lot of commercials in a way, sketches as well.
Vern, this must be some kind of a cigarette lighter. I know nothing. I see nothing.
Before the character would come to life. Anyway. But I'm sure you know all about the character. In a way, he's had a lot of films, so I'm sure a lot of folks remember this character rather fondly. So let's get this started, because now it is time for season 11.
Why use all that mathematical, analytical analysis? I'll just pick the one I like the best. Make the mellow yellow move. Know what I mean?
So first we're going to look at, look back at the film Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam. So, yeah, this one, I feel like this video is going to be extremely long to edit, and I'm going to be a bit nervous because, copyright and all that. I feel like saying, oh man, it's going to be, and all that. What was this one about? Well, in Ernest P Worrel tries out a strange contraption he bought cheaply called the changing coffin, and the machine turns him into his opposite, a mad scientist and supervillain bent on world domination called Dr. Otto.
Activate the device. A magnetic ray will be created.
And he plans to use his gloom beam to render all the computers that keep people's financial records and bank accounts useless, which would make him the only one with access to all this dough. And then bumbling hero Lance, Sterling, and his cautious psychic Doris are sent to Dr. Otto's lair to stop him. There they must face various alter egos of Dr. Otto, as well as his manservant, Willie the Robot. For an Ernest film, again, this is the very first one. But it's not okay, yes, Ernest appears, but he's not a main character, anyway. One thing that makes this one a bit interesting, at least I think so, is in that, the film really is able to give you the idea of all the bits of, the talent that, Jim Varney had as an actor when it comes to the use of, his use of the ability to ad-lib or be able to use, create different characters for a film. He has a lot of the characters that we would later see in other films, whether it is, the grandmother character that he would, play in other films when it comes to, say, he needs to pull off a trick on others. He has several tricks and all that, or costumes. He has his grandmother, costume and all that.
Well, you little darling, you're blooming. Here. I hope you strangle on it.
He also has a alter ego in which he plays a pirate, in which he also has his minions basically have him to help, say, help me figure out, what word I should be using, and all that. One thing that also does is, at one point in the film, it's time to say, hey, at one point, Lance and, Otto were in school together and all that. So yeah, they have like a moment where like we have the first creation of Willie the robot, and he's destroying Lance's thing, which is he's like say like he was saying say he basically creates a voting booth, that, and everyone he's just gonna say, "This is the greatest thing ever." But then the robot just basically starts destroying things.
Sayonara, book through the ages.
Not the pork. I'm happy now. Little children in China don't get pork.
Um, and then like ever so often, like there'll be moments in which, like there's like the beam is causing financial things in the world to suddenly crash. Like there's a sequence in which, like a woman is going grocery shopping, and then like she's going to say, "That'll be $2,000," and I'm just thinking like say. So I mean, honestly, I kind of like this film. It had its bit of humor in a way, in the fact that Varney was doing all these different characters. The hand that is on, um, you know, Doctor Otto and all that. I thought that was pretty cool as a effect. Like actually, what it is just a person who's using their hand to do it. So I think that's kind of cool though. So I think this one, when it comes down to it, it would help lay the groundwork when it comes to what we would kind of expect from a film involving the character of Ernest. So, yeah, let's keep it going. Next, we're gonna be looking at the film Ernest Goes to Camp. It was the first film in the Ernest film series. But it was like say the second film to feature the character of Ernest P Worrel. In this case, Ernest Goes to Camp. I've actually reviewed this film before, so honestly, yeah, I thought this film was still relatively good. I thought that, the film can be quite silly in a way.
Although they look cute and cuddly, don't ever do this to a family of badgers.
And after this second rewatch, I have some little bit of things that made me think a little bit differently, especially for the camper kids that are from the who are considered the bad kids in a way, but then they're given the opportunity to go to camp and all that, and yeah, I kind of like the fact that Ernest is sort of like the mentor for these kids, but at the same time it's like say hey like they at times like they'll pull pranks on him, like they give him what he believes are flowers but they're actually poison ivy and all that. Like now they'll try to like pull a lot of pranks on him, and yeah, like I gotta say that like a lot of times in these films, Ernest will play Ernest will play like say an everyman role. Like say he'll be in a job that would be like hey someone having a regular blue collar job or something like that, and you kind of in a way I feel like you can say you really have a sense of like hey you really want Ernest to be able to like win in this because he is wanting to be a mentor for these the kids. He wants to be there for them and all that. He wants to be a camp counselor because uh, he's worked at the camp for many years and all that. And oh gosh, I really don't want to talk about it because I feel like I'm gonna cry. the sequence in which, like, yeah, like, he doesn't, Ernest doesn't realize that, like, the nurse of the camp, like, her, the father, who is, like, has the claim to the land that the camp is on, like, there is a very, like, say, manipulative man who's trying to take over the land to, like, dismantle it and, use all that stuff. Yes, you kind of feel, like, you kind of feel like, say, Ernest, you dummy, when he, in a way, is, like, ends up giving the land away because he doesn't know what's going on. And then at the same time, like, you kind of think, come on, Ernest, you got this, when he's trying to defend the kids. But at the same time, you kind of understand, like, Ernest is just a one person.
No! Let it go! Ah! All right, come on, Ernest, get on!
Hey, son!
Come on!
And, he's willing to defend these kids. But at the same time, it's kind of a bit sad because, he's willing to, stick up for them. But at the same time, it's like, say, what else can he do? He's just one person against basically just a giant. And I still think this song, gee, I'm glad it's raining, it gets to you, man. It really does. Dramatically. Like, when I hear that song, it's over for me.
These kids, it's everything to me. I was a counselor. I had everything. And now it's all gone.
Like, I'm not even talking about that song, right? I'm not even, like, thinking about it, or I haven't listened to it. But even talking about it gets to me, man. It's such a good song that it hits you in the feels.
What they wanted was a hero. All I needed was a friend.
But at the same time, I still think this film is very entertaining for what it is. The first, official Ernest film in the series. So, Ernest Goes to Camp, still a good film to come back to. I do like it how, like, I know someone, like, from a modern context, like, the folks that are trying to destroy the camp, yeah, they're blue-collar workers and all that, but at the same time, I feel like they had to know that, like, what they're doing is probably, like, illegal encroachment, but they're going to, like, say, and all that, and then they basically try to, like, the kids and the campers attack them with, like, say, pies. They attacked him with, like, say, cannons with food, and even, like, catapulting turtles. So yeah, this film is very entertaining. At least I think of it is. Honestly, it's worth looking back at. So let's keep on going. Now we're talking about Ernest Saves Christmas. This is another film that I've already talked about in the past, especially during the holidays. So, what was this one about? The film chronicles Ernest's attempts to find a replacement for an aging Santa Claus. I gotta say, even though I've seen this one a few times, and, rewatched it, it does not make sense to me how, like, even on Rotten Tomatoes, the film only has, like, say, 40% of critics' reviews were positive. So basically, the film was, like, considered mixed or average, in a way, from critics' perspective. I still gotta say, it makes me want to say, why? Yes, I understand, like, say, some folks, like, saying, hey, that some of the humor that the Ernest films are known to have, like, say, the goofiness and all that. Like, there's a sequence in which Ernest is telling, "Hey, Vern, how you doing, man?" And, like, he's helping, trying to, like, get the trees and all that.
A time for sleigh bells tinkling in the snow. Oh, Vern, that puppy's really stuck, know what I mean? You know, Vern, it looks like a transmutation of your 110 and your 220, know what I mean?
And all that put together in the house. But one thing I really have to say is that the character of Thatcher Douglas Seal, he does a marvelous job playing the character of Santa Claus, even though he's not, like, supposed to dress as Santa or even all. He just gives off he's just so charismatically charming.
You see, I took over the position of Santa Claus in 1889 from a German chap. I enjoyed every second of it.
Then how come you don't want to be Santa Claus anymore?
No, it isn't that, you see. With the passing of time, the magic fades.
I've got some jumper cables in the back if you need recharging.
And it works. It works so well that, like, there's moments, like, say, the sequence in which he's in jail and then he's conducting a little bit of a choir, singing Christmas songs. He does a fantastical job. Like, even those moments, like, when he's trying to talk to Joe and all that. Like, and then again, I say, like, yes, there are the moments of, like, say, okay, yeah, this film has its dramatic elements of storytelling. Like, say, the character of Harmony, refers, but her actual real name is Pamela, because she had ran away from home. Like, for the entire film, she's basically just trying to say, hey, what can I do to, like, say, do this scam and all that? Because she's trying to think, say, hey, Ernest had, accidentally taken this sack and all that. So basically, throughout the entire film, she's trying to, like, come to grips of what she's doing, in a way. But eventually, she goes, like, say, hey, here's this sack. I called my mom. I'm gonna try to go home.
Well, I'm gonna go home, so I guess I'm not gonna see you again.
Keep your nose clean, little lady.
I'm gonna miss you too, Ernest.
And all that. So yeah, it has some of those dramatic little elements to it. Oh boy, but Oliver Clark as Joe, he is so gosh darn good. In that, he is like playing a character who is a children's television host or something like that for children's programming. And you can just see how he does such a good job, like he just sees the world in a different way. Like, there's a sequence in which he is cast in a Christmas horror film and all that, but he can't really say all the bad words. And you just think, like, say, oh, like he said, like, the way he just says, like, say, I can't say it in front of the kid actors. But then again, you say, well, they've heard worse and all that, but it's just like, yeah, they've heard worse, but it's like, say, he's still connected to that role for his children's programming thing. And I gotta say, all the moments, like, say, when Ernest is flying the sleigh, it's really good.
Air brakes.
Like, yeah, it's silly, like, him just going, and all that. But this is such a good, I think this one's good. Especially the holiday season. Like, it gets you in that mood, even when it's in the middle of April, because I'm reviewing this film before May. So in the middle of summer, it's still pretty good. I do have to say my funniest moment, though, is when Ernest is, like, he has the character of the grandmother of we say, where is Martin and all that, and all that.
Where is Martin? I need him to help me with my will. Having walked from the airport, I'll be dead soon.
I don't know what to do. He's with a client.
That's life for you. You have 2 sons, one good, one bad. And wouldn't you know it, with my luck, the good one dies.
And I do find the moment at the end of the film in which the character Santa Claus or says like his real name, and then like his name was Seth, and then he ends up like having a date with like a museum employee. Oh, it's so sweet. Yeah, I can say this is a film good to even watch when it's not the holiday season. That's just what I think, though. Let's look at Ernest Goes to Jail. So this was the third film in the Ernest series, after Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Saves Christmas. And this was like say one of the third in like say like a one that was done with Touchstone Pictures. What was this one about? Well, in this film, Ernest works as a janitor at a bank, in which he is called to do jury duty. And there is a man at the jail named Mr. Nash, who bears a striking resemblance to Ernest, and what is the plan is switch Mr. Nash with Ernest so that Mr. Nash can get out free, in a way. So Ernest is stuck in jail, in a way. I think I might have seen this film as a child. I think I really might have seen it, because I remember seeing quite a few of the Ernest films, like Ernest Scared Stupid and all that. This one has a lot of things that make it a lot different than the usual films with their Ernest character, such as the fact that Jim Varney plays a different version of Ernest, in this case, Mr. Nash. Like, a mean version of Ernest, in a way. So it's really kind of neat that fact, he got to play a different version, like a bad version. Like, a guy who looks like Ernest, but at the same time is a mean, bad guy. And one little bit of a gimmick that is going throughout this film is at one point in the film, Ernest gets shocked, electrocuted, in a way, so at times, in the middle of the film, he ends up getting things that get attracted to him, like when he first gets like at the bank, and he on a dinner date and all that. So throughout I do kind of find it funny how, like, when Arnold is, like, trying to get, like, say, talk to one of the guys in the warden in the jail, because he's like, saying, hey, you see this guy? I think I'm in jail, buddy. I think I'm in jail, and all that. So throughout the thing, he's trying to think of different ways to get out, and Mr. Nash is basically taking over his job at the bank, and basically he takes over his home and redecorates it as well. And you can see just how much of a bad man Mr. Nash is, in that he throws Ernest's dog outside after trying to assault Ernest's lady friend. Plays the character of Charlotte. And yeah, this one is a lot more silly at the same time. Like, there's a sequence in which he's on jury duty and he's, like, biting a pin, I guess. Or maybe, because first he had I think he had a pipe. And then he's just, like, smearing all over his face.
A fellow prisoner while in jail. And for this, the state asks that you extend his remaining time of 5 months into a sentence of life without parole.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defense will show that the deceased was not killed by my client.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, I think. It's kind of stupid, but it's funny. It's harmless. I think so. Yeah, compared to the previous films, like, say, this one does not have all those emotional moments that you would the Ernest, like an Ernest Goes to Camp, or heck, even Ernest Saves Christmas. Not as much of the emotional elements to, make it, like, this one goes more full slapstick.
I came, I saw, I got blowed up.
And I like slapstick, in a way. So yeah, I think this one is, if you're wanting more of a Ernest film that has more comedic elements and less moments of, like, dramaticism, then this one might be one you could be interested in checking out. So let's keep going.
So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So now we're looking at the film Ernest Scared Stupid. So this was the final film in the film series that would be the final film released by Touchstone Pictures as a 4-film deal. And after this, like, say, the films would go to become independently done. A budget of $9.6 million, and then a box return of $14.1 million. So it was a slight success, but not a total one. Well, in this one, in the film, Ernest unwittingly leashes an evil troll upon a small town on Halloween night and helps the local children fight back. I actually remember watching this one as a kid. Yeah, I remember seeing this one as a kid.
No, don't stick my head in those gears. But it's me or you. And I have a family at the doll factory. I'll send him a nice card. You'll never get away with this, Ernest. I know where you live.
Here's some bit of the interesting you probably didn't know about this film, is in that some of the troll designs, not the one that is like the Trantor. Some of them were done, like, say, reskins of the aliens of the clowns from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So yeah, some of them had to be given credit from I think it's the Chabot brothers who directed the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I gotta say, yeah, like, this one, when it comes back to it, this one's a really good one to come back to during the spooky season. And even when it's not the spooky season, it's a fairly fun one to come back to. Like, yeah, like, in each of these films, Ernest has a bit of, like, a local, like a everyman job in a way. And I gotta say, it's different. I didn't notice this, but it seems in every film of these, Ernest lives in a different location, because I know in Ernest Goes to Saves Christmas, he lived in Florida. And here, I think it said he lived in a town called Briarville, which is in Missouri. So yeah, he must have moved or something like that. I gotta say the looks for all the Trantor is really good. And I gotta say, I kind of enjoyed this one. This one was fairly fun. Eartha Kitt, it played old lady Hackmore, who was basically the a character who basically lives in the like in the outside skirts of town, and everyone's going to say that's not in bump onto her um doorstep because she might get upset.
Get out of here and don't come back!
I wish you'd reconsider. Recycling is a very important part of good citizenship.
And you'll be a dead citizen. When the poisons of the evil courses through the portals and channels of your body, you will lie a quivering, toxic mass of screaming flesh.
And in a way, like, I gotta say it's kind of funny because, it does a thing that's usually very common in, like, these kids' horror movies, in a way. And that, like, say, the main character, who's usually the goofball, he's the one that causes all the problems for, like, the town and all that. And I gotta say one thing that makes this film different is because it feels like, say, the world feels a lot bigger in this film compared to the others, and that, Ernest interacts, like, with a town, he interacts with, like, say, the local sheriff, and all that. Because he didn't do that in the previous film, so I thought that's pretty cool. And I think this one, it seems like Jim Varney is having the most fun in this one, especially since this one is a bit different. It's not like it has humor to it, but it's more has most moments of like spooky.
How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips?
Fun to it. I gotta say the moment that always makes me laugh out loud though is in the fact that Ernest thinks at first like they're trying to figure out how to get rid of the Trantor, so he goes like say, "Have some miak."
Let's see how you like a little miak.
Yuck.
Yeah, miak. I bet you thought I couldn't find any this time of year. Well, I'm a little too resourceful for you, a little too light on my feet. So come on, eat miak and die.
And all that. And I gotta say that's still hilarious. So one thing, like, as the film goes on, like, say all the kids get attacked, they get turned into wooden, like, figures. And when near the end of the film, like, Ernest is having to be the one to save the day. After, like, the town discover, hey, the trolls don't like milk. Which, now, when you're thinking about it, like, you feel like, say, wait, how did they not realize that's what it was? But then again, it didn't say it had 2 words missing, so it could have been miak or milk. There's only 2 options. And at the end of the film, you're expecting, say, okay, it's Ernest versus Trantor, because Trantor is now at his final form. So what Ernest does, like, like, say, only Hackmore goes, like, say, Ernest needs to show a sign of love, in a way. So what he does is instead of, like, fighting him with the milk, because the troll even said, it don't work for me anymore, he just gives him a big old hug.
Come on, little fella.
And I kind of like that. Like, it basically, he ends up getting rid of him, in a way. And yeah, I'm gonna say it. I think this film is, like, from the Ernest films, this one is really good. It's entertaining. The moments of, like, goofy horror vibes, it's like, it works. Like, for a first time horror.
She's not it. Over here, Kenny.
Comedy? Yeah, it's not like say, like say, terrifying, But yeah, like, it works. Like, say, yeah, for, like, probably as a kid, it would have those spooky moments. And in a way, this would be, like, one of those films you'd see as a kid growing up. Because it would become a mainstay when it comes to Halloween season, film-wise.
Oh, you're so cute.
So, yeah, it's time to look at. So, now we're looking at Ernest Rise Again. What was, this one came out, this one follows the plot of Ernest and history professor as they discover a long-lost Revolutionary War cannon and must protect it from others who want the precious jewels hidden inside. I don't think I actually saw this one growing up. This was the last one in the series to get a theatrical release, because the next film in this one would be Ernest Goes to School. This is probably going to be shocking to people. Actually, I really enjoyed this one. I really did. Mostly because, like, say, compared to the other ones, like, yes, like, say, Ernest Scared Stupid, that one was a horror comedy. This one was a bit of a adventure comedy.
He's on my cannon.
I kind of liked it. I kind of like the fact that you have these two different characters, Ernest, and then you also have Dr. Abner Mellon, who is a university professor who basically has, his own ideas of, like, things. Like, say, hey, he is trying to find a Revolutionary War cannon called the Goliath. And then the basically also has been made fun of by his peers in the community because he believed the real crown jewels of England were stolen during the Revolutionary War and were, kind of lost in the canon. I gotta say, in the fact that, yeah, I kind of enjoyed this one. Like, say, like, there's quite a few characters that I go, huh, that made this one kind of a bit more entertaining. At the beginning of the film, they have a short to the film Mr. Bill Goes to Washington, which was a stop-motion little film.
Like Sluggo Hussein.
Oh, no, so what does he want now?
He just wants to give us what we've hoped for all along.
The new peace treaty?
No, all the oil you could ever want. Now it's time to go to the Hill to meet Congress.
Oh, boy, Capitol Hill, yay!
And then one of the things that makes this interesting is that, like, you have Abner, who is a college professor, and then his wife, Nan, who seems to be younger than him, and she's basically just like said, well, babe, I got myself a new car. And he goes like, said, with what money did you decide to do it? And I say, yeah, I got the money to buy a car, so, that, I kind of like the fact that, like, there was a lot of goofinesses. Like, say, the opening sequence of this film, like, when it comes to the slapsticky of it, is in which Ernest is at a development site for a home, but it's mostly just, like, the beams have been set up, so a saw, like, a saw that is put in through a electrical cord starts to follow him around.
With stealth and agility, Indiana evades the serpent of endless teeth.
And all that. So that's some of the bit of slapstick of the film. Some other aspects of it, like, say, at first, like, the character of Abner, he's at first, like, say, annoyed by Ernest because, like, he goes, like, say, okay, let's go on this adventure to try to find the, cannon. And they end up finding it. I do kind of like the fact, like, one of the, like, say, some part of the film, like, like, the middle of the film, is Ernest and Abner they find the cannon, and then Ernest is basically just having to take a ride on it for the film. And yeah, I thought the sequences when Ernest is on top of the cannon, just like, going and saying, wow, was kind of fun.
The crown, Jules?
Ernest, we're going for the neighbor's cow! Abner? Let's roll.
And also during this time, there was also two guys that are part of, like, salesmen who are just, like, trying to sell things, and they're on the, like, journey with Nan because she goes, like, say, my car, and all that. But as the film goes on, Abner and Ernest become more friends, like, more like friends in a way. Like, the adventure aspect of it becomes a lot of fun. I'd rather say the silliest moment, though, at least I think so, is the sequence in which Ernest is on top of the cannon, and he ends up plowing through a van, and then the husband and wife, the husband uses a fishing line to try to, like, lure him away and all that.
Ow! Don't you use marvelous hooks! Ow!
All right, power to the back of that cannon now!
But there's a man on that cannon!
Yeah, I can see that. Do it!
Think of the danger! Think of the horror! Think of humanity!
Think of the jewels.
He'll live.
Yeah, I thought this one was a lot of fun. It had some over-the-top elements of it. So, but eventually, they're able to find, they say, okay, well, Ernest thinks, okay, we need to shoot off the cannon. They shoot off the cannon, and the Abner goes, like, say, dude, where's the, you probably just destroyed the crown and all that stuff. But the crown was actually inside of some barrels. Ernest, like, what you'd expect, puts the crown on top of his little head. And he can't get it off. So the bad guys try to chop his head off to get it. And all that.
No. I'm glad it was the hard end.
Yeah, and then, but eventually, like, Ernest tries to get away. And then the professor, in this case, Cliff, he and Ernest, like, are trying to, like, like, Glenncliff is trying to get back his, all this, the crown, because of, there are several things that Ernest has done, like, goofy, like, he destroyed a mummy and all that. So, like, he's trying to follow him with different things. He shoots him with a crossbow. He chases him down with a battle axe. Yeah, I thought this one was kind of a lot of fun. It was goofy. It was silly. It had the right tone in a way. At least I think so. Especially, like, after, like, leaving, we're not having, after Disney and Touchstone didn't decide to renew the deal after Ernest Scared Stupid. Yeah. I kind of enjoyed this one. At least I did.
Gonna miss you, buddy. Hey, what's that in your shirt?
Hey, when you see that.
Let go of my leg, no movie, time out!
No time out.
Have you seen this one? I don't know. But sadly, unfortunately, though, this was also the lowest grossing film in the series. So let's keep on going. Now let's look at the film Ernest Goes to School. This is the 7th film to feature the character of Ernest P Worrel, and the 6th film in the Ernest series, after Ernest Rise Again. And this is the only film that was not directed by John Cherry. And the first not to have a wide theatrical release. Well, what happened in this film? Well, in this film, Ernest works as a janitor at a school, and in a way, the school is going to say, hey, like, you know, a district school person is basically saying, we're going to change some rules because we're going to close the school down, and folks who work in the school, they need to have a high school, degree or something like that. So Ernest needs to go back to school. And the idea for this sounds a bit like the film, Billy Madison.
Math classes, room 205.
Thanks.
Hey, you'll need a hall pass.
Thanks.
I at first thought that honestly, and that, Ernest, who, is kind of a bit, not the brightest in the light bulb, but at the same time, I'm gonna say, I never really thought how, at the same time, the film has some bit of, smart ideas that I wouldn't have thought about when it comes to film. Have you heard of the story of Flowers for Algernon? Which was about, like, say, a guy who, in a way, has, gets done an experiment which helps him become extremely intelligent. And in a way, changes, and, the folks that he were kind of bullied by, don't like him as much anymore. So, yeah, Ernest discovers, like, say, some two scientists at the school who, in a way, basically have him put on a helmet, so in a way he can, go through all the classes in a way and all that. And I'll be honest, at first, I was saying, why is Ernest going to school during the daytime? With all these, high schoolers and all that, but then it made me realize something. Yes, the film could have had a night school and all that, when Ernest would have to, have classes at night. But at the same time, I'm feeling, maybe they didn't have that night schools back in the 90s and all that. And, it has, some ideas, yeah, Ernest becomes intelligent, and he, in a way, becomes more, different, in that, he loses his, goofy, unknowingness of the things in the world. And, yeah, I think, that's probably a little bit of the appeal of the character, in that, he is a bit of a goober, and he might not know everything, but he goes through it with a bit of a heart. So, yeah, there's a sequence in which, he's at the lunchroom, and then, basically, the folks that were kind to him, the students, they basically goes, say, Ernest, you're being a jerk.
We got ketchup. That's what I like to eat it with.
Yes, I bet you do.
You know, Ernest, you've turned into a real jerk. I liked you a lot better when you weren't so smart.
And all that. And then, during the film, he had become, the leading guy to lead the band. So, in a way, he becomes humiliated, and in a way, kind of ruins the moment. What that ends up happening is, some school kids help him become more, help him study, so he can help pass the final tests and all that. Sort of say you'd see, in later films that would come out after this, where the student is trying to, learn all the things he needs. And in the big game, they knock out the football players because the coach wants the team to lose, so then he can become a coach for a better team in a way. And yeah, I kind of thought the film, I thought it was trying to have some smart ideas. And yeah, I thought okay, this film has a bit of heart to it. At least I think so. Ernest ends up changing himself in a way where he thinks, hey, this is gonna be for the best in a way. But anyway, he ends up changing himself. I don't know, maybe I'm just sugarcoating it. I don't know. At times I thought it could be a little bit funny.
Once again, the right tool for the right job. Know what I mean?
But yeah, let's keep on. So, now let's look at Slam Dunk Ernest. This was the, what was it? This one was the 8th film. And the 7th film, 8th film for the character, and the 7th film for the Ernest series. Yeah, John Cherry, who had directed all the previous films, returns for this film. What was this one about? Well, this film, Ernest joins his employer's basketball team, and then becomes a star with the help of an angel. I gotta say, I kind of like some things about this. I kind of do. Like in the fact that, yeah, the beginning of the film, Ernest is he wants to become part of his, the other co-workers he works with, their basketball team, and all that. I'm guessing in a way I can understand, because he wants to feel like he's part of something in a way and all that. But in a way, he ends up kind of ruining the first game for them. And all that. But then if Finn, say, the archangel of basketball shows up, played by Abdul Jabbar, and basically he's going to say, "Oh gosh," and he says, okay, "Wait, you're who I'm being sent here for," and all that, and all that. Yeah, it has some goofy things that I kind of say. It's trying to make fun of its own self. Yes, there's the slapstick. I guess say some of it is Jim Varney is doing a good job when it comes to it, but at the same time it's not as it's gone from say what would be described as almost say very PG Three Stooges to almost cartoony. But at the same time, it's say, okay, he, in the film, the Archangel gives him, some very popular shoes that are going on at the time. That in a way, and he goes say, don't take advantage of these shoes. They are very powerful and all that. So, Ernest basically just goes, okay, he ends up, he realizes, say, hey, guys, I'm sorry for ruin your chances. So he ends up trying to use the shoes to try to help clean them all so that he can help them with the game.
Hang time.
And yeah, at first things seem to go well because he's helping them get to where they need to be and all that. But sort of kind of in what was it? Ernest Goes to School. This one he basically he suddenly gets that taste of fame because there's two folks. In this case, and like like another guy, who in a way just like are trying to like Ernest doesn't realize it, but they're basically trying to take advantage of him in a way so they can make money off of him in a way.
The media will eat you up like ice cream.
Don't misuse the shoes.
And yeah, at first, like, he just say, huh, anything I could want in all that. Because, it has some things that by now it would be considered a cliche in a way. And, yeah, I think, and, like, say, you can kind of understand, like, he lets it all go to his head. And eventually they just go, like, say, Ernest, you're just being a jerk again because, like, you're letting all this stuff go to your head. That's not good. So at the near the end of it, he just basically tells the guy, like, say, like, his fellow teammates, like, I want you guys to try to, like, score some things. Let's be a team and all that. And at the end of the thing, you're probably expecting for the team to win, and they do. The one thing I thought was pretty cool was that the the leader of the team, in this case Barry, he has a son, and like he really wants to be better at basketball, because there's once again where he's getting picked on by some other kids, and he kind of go like say,
Hey, come on, one-on-one, let's go. All right, go. Yes, Quincy, way to hit, babe. You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm just warming up. Hey, put that up again, and I'll shove it down your throat, little squirt. Just a little boy. Just leave him alone. Okay, let's go. I told you, don't mess with the big dog.
come on, like, give the chance. So when for the film, they're basically trying, like, his dad's trying to say, do the work, do better, and all that. And he marketing, like, which was a thing in '90, like, Reeboks would just like say, hey, it would help you run faster and all that. So he ends up, the shoes that Ernest was wearing, he ends up stealing them. And I guess you kind of feel bad for the kid, because you'd feel like say, like, he's kind of taking the wrong lessons in a way, like, he's thinking it's the shoes and all that. And he's having this idea of like say, if I just get these shoes, maybe I'll do better in a way. And I guess like back, especially like when you're a kid, you have all these ideas of like say, if I wear a different pair of shorts, maybe I'll run faster. Maybe if I do this, maybe this will help me be a better, like, team player, or swim faster or something like that. And yeah, I don't think this one was too bad. Yeah, a lot of the guys who are part of the team, they do talk very stereotypical, I'd say. But at the same time, yeah, I thought at times it was funny. It wasn't like say to the point where like, hey, this is insulting. At least I didn't think so. I'm guessing because like say I've grown used to this series' humor and all that after 8 films. So yeah, let's keep going. And which was in the next film, Ernest Goes to Africa. Let's check that one out. Okay, we're now at the 9th film to feature the character Ernest, and the 8th in the Ernest series, after Slam Dunk Ernest. In this case, Ernest Goes to Africa. What happened in it? Well, Ernest unknowingly comes into possession of stolen jewels and is kidnapped and brought to Africa, where he must rescue the woman he loves. I gotta say, it has some ideas. Like, it can be a little bit funny at times. At the same time, I'm gonna say it. This is the worst one of them. This is the worst one of the films. Because it feels like, say, okay, like, one thing that makes this one kind of a bit, like, just like say, okay, in that we have the character of Renee, played by Linda Cash. My gosh, they have this the character they wrote of the character of Renee. She is the most like annoying character, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, say, what does Ernest see in her?
So, Bazoo. Can I call you Baz? I bet you were a football player in school. Linebacker? I was a cheerleader. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I was a substitute, you know, a bench warmer.
You really start to wonder because, like, yes, she gets kidnapped, and it's like, he kind of basically she has to go save her in a way, because one thing Ernest had done is he had found some jewels at a store, like a local flea market and all that, and he basically painted them into a yo-yo. And I'll be honest and say, like, yeah, he's a goober. But at the same time, I'd say Ernest has a bit of, like, a innocence to him in this one.
Minutes. Your friend here will be 2 feet taller.
2 feet taller? Well, she'll never be able to wear that blue dress again.
Although, like, the previous time when I reviewed this film, like, yes, I basically had just, like, I had looked back at that film review to see what I had not done when it came to talk about it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the sequence in which he is having to do brown face.
Cubed or shaved, O majestic one, whose flip-flop is the serving spoon of the bowl. Cubed.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
As I was saying, Jameen.
In a tall or a short glass, O special one whose flatulence is the perfume of the night. Tall.
I understand someone saying, hey, come on, it's not that terrible. And I can say, I understand that perspective. It can be like, say, okay, it's funny at first, but then then after a while you go, say, like, really, we're doing this? Because, yeah, I feel like, say, like, yeah, I feel like also at the same time back in the 90s, there was all ideas of films that would try to do this in a way. Like, they're, like, yeah, this film was even filmed in Africa. So, yeah, it gives the film some bit of difference. At the same time, one issue about that is it does, at the same time, like, even though it has, some great scenery. And sometimes it can be funny with some jokes. There's just a sequence in which Ernest is a exotic dancer and he's trying to save Renee, and he doesn't want the Sultan to see his face, so he tries to eat food from under the thing. I guess I can't remember, but I don't know what it's called. So I think that's a little bit funny.
Just one little kiss.
Yeah, compared to the other films, this one is not the best. And like I said, yeah, the film has some things that I kind of think are a little bit funny, like in the fact that there's a sequence in which at the end of the film, Ernest is having to fight up against the big guy, in this case, Thompson. So one thing he does is he uses different things, like he uses a teddy bear and all that, and he ends up, fighting him in different ways, whether it's his yo-yo, or heck, even using a rubber chicken to knock him out. And yes, I think it's kind of funny. It's a little bit funny. It's goofy. It's silly. At the same time, I'm just gonna say, these films, like say in the past films, they had some bit more, like I feel like they had a bit more. I don't know what the word would be. Like, yeah, it wasn't this in a way. So yeah, I feel like this one, like, even though I can say, yeah, this has a lot of issues. Like I said, the character of Renee, she's unlikable. And it makes you wonder, like, say, why, Ernest, why are you interested in this girl? Anyway, it's kind of like the, like, remember the character of Willie from Raiders of the Lost Ark? I mean, no, Temple of Doom? Yes, looking back, yeah, she's annoying, but, we grow to like the character. With this one, it's just like, say, I don't know why we should. She kind of is annoying. Like, she's the damsel in distress throughout the film, in a way. But I guess she doesn't really have much things that make her very, personable, I guess would be the word. And, yeah, even at the end of the film, he gives her another gift, which was from the, it gave, from Africa, which was an egg. So, yeah, I thought this film had its issues. But we're about to be finished up and look at the final film. In this case, Ernest in the Army. So, now we're looking at the final film in the Ernest series. Well, this was, in this case, Ernest in the Army. This was the ninth in the final film in the Ernest series before Jim Varney's death in February of 2000. So, in a way, honestly, looking at it that way, like, thinking of it, like, like, at this time, like, when this film probably came out, we didn't, like, realize, like, say, hey, this would be the, like, one of the final, films with this character, and all that. And I gotta say this one was the good one to go out with. I really thought this one was fairly entertaining.
But to relieve you of your duties.
Ben, what's
I know
wrong?
it's too tough. Barnes, I was never here. It never happened. I've been at the officers' club the whole time. General, sir.
Call a medic. Call an ambulance. I learned CPR on Oprah.
I thought this one was actually good, in a way. What actually happened? Well, in this one, Ernest is working as a golf ball collector at a golf range in Georgia, and thoughts, hey, he wants to be, wants to be like, I want to drive the big rigs, and his friend says, hey, you should join the United States Army, and all that. And he'll never have to get into the actual combat, so he enlists, and basically he's part of, like, reserve, but eventually he gets sent away to serve his country. I gotta say I really enjoyed this film. I really did. Like, there are a lot of, like, compared to the previous films, the gags in this one are relatively work rather well. Like, I gotta say there's, like, a sequence in which Ernest is, like, he's, they're at attention and all that, and then he eats some, like, like, gummy worms and all that, and then the captain, I guess, or general, goes, like, say, what are you eating, Sergeant? What are you eating, soldier? And then basically he's trying to, like, get it to go down, and then he ends up spitting it all over his face.
Shoulders back. Stomach in. Ernest, do something.
And it gets stuck on him. Yeah, I find it hilarious. And through this film, there is, like, a young child character named Ben Ali, who Ernest befriends, like, one day when after Ernest is basically told to drop and give 100 push-ups, and basically like the kid goes like, say, "Hey, if you pay me, I'll give you a it was a charm that will bring you good luck and all that." But eventually the child goes like, say, "Oh, you're gonna pay me? Yoink!" and all that. So he runs as quickly as he can. So I thought that was a little bit funny. One thing that Ernest does in this film is, like, while they're in service, he creates some pancakes, but they are extremely tough. So, like, no one's able to lift them. They're not able to eat them.
Good. Need all fork. Ben, hand me the fork. Thanks.
I just find it hilarious how basically he's able to use them as a frisbee and all that. A lot of the, like, one of the things that happen in the film is that the Colonel Gillette, he ends up getting kidnapped along with a reporter, named Cindy. So they're trying to, like, rescue her. Ernest is trying to, like, rescue her and him. So, he and, like, Ernest is going to try to, like, save the day. So he ends up going out in the middle of the desert to try to find them, in a way. And he eventually does. He ends up finding them, and, they're trying to, like, they're trying to get away and all that, like, say, after they end up being rescued. I do have to say my favorite gag in the film, though, is a sequence in which they're trying, where, say, the colonel, general, he's basically say, "Okay, Ernie, aim fire!"
Kibby shot a man in the foot last year. It was an accident, Mr. President, for life. I have such feelings of guilt. Act like a man! Any other requests?
Yeah. Let me go!
Ready? Aim!
And all that. And also, yeah, that was a little bit funny. There are, like, quite a few gags that I kind of liked, and that, one of the things that happen is that they are able to tell the difference between a rock mine and just a rock. So one thing they end up doing is, like, while they're running away or driving away, they end up throwing rock mines at them and all that, like mini little explosions.
Nice one!
But at the same time, my favorite gag is that in the film, like, the general, he is tied up to a rocket and all that. But then it's revealed, like, say, the general who is basically British, he is basically just been playing a long con game. And I'm gonna say one thing that makes it interesting is that some of this film has a bit of influence, like, I think it has similarities to something like, say, Dr. Otto, the first one, and then a combination of that film meets Ernest Rise Again.
The ropes, Ernest, the ropes!
This is gonna hurt. I'm sure glad that isn't me.
And yeah, I kind of liked this one. I thought this one was fairly entertaining. So, yeah. The final Ernest film, this has been quite a bit of a journey. And, yeah, this is like, say, looking back, like, you look back at a actor's, like, career as a character, and you go, like, say, yeah, there was a lot of, some great moments with his character. There was be some moments that are just like, not as funny, but, the character of Ernest, especially from Jim Varney, he was always trying to give us a bit of a smile or a bit of a chuckle. And, you know, when he wasn't doing, you know, he would also do, like, say, other, like, commercials. Like, he even did a advertisement for Walt Disney's Splash Mountain, like, I think it was Splash Mountain, and all that. I think it's Disneyland's. And because I think you can tell, the difference you can tell is Disney World, it was, like, you know, you sit with each other, and Disneyland's, you sit in front of each other. So,
At this moment, we ask that squeamish or sensitive adults turn their eyes from the screen.
So yeah, that one, like, you know, he's riding the log down the flume and all that. Maybe that's a bit of nostalgia to some folks. So, yes. Welcome to season 11. I'll see you next time. Gosh, this is gonna be either the longest video, and at the same time also the most time I'm gonna have to, you know, check all in case there's too much when it comes to the clips being used in this film for this review. Because this review is about the length of a film, of one of the Ernest films. See you next time.
Stick by your buddy. Know what I mean?